Hey planner friends, so I've been wanting to share my review of the Full Focus Planner for quite a while, and I'm just going to share like a brief overview of my thoughts on the Full Focus Planner. I started using it in 2024. Prior to that, I was using the Erin Condren Daily, and I had used the Erin Condren Daily for maybe about 2 years, but it stopped serving me, and I had like so many blank pages. And it just like breaks my heart when a planner isn't getting utilized. And it just wasn't working for me in that season of my life. At that time, I was like coming into doing a lot more project work. So prior to that, my work was like more predictable and like pretty routine. But I was coming into project work, and what I was really wanting was some way to kind of gauge week to week how I was progressing projects forward. There's lots of tools that you can use online for this, but I really wanted a planner that I could reference and use for that purpose. So that's kind of like where my mind was at the time. And so I had done a lot of research, as I always do before getting into a planner. And what I liked about it was that it was very structured. I had also just read Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt, who is like the creator of the Full Focus Planner. And that book was really excellent. Like I really appreciated all the principles in that book about how to make sure you're essentially doing the right things so that you're moving not only your like work life forward, but like your personal life forward. And so there's like weekly reviews incorporated, and that kind of like intentional planning I really, really liked about this planner. So my first impressions, the way it's laid out, you have in the beginning like a section for your goals, where you break them down. You have your key motivations, a reminder of like key motivations to help remind you of like why you started, and then next steps. So like very specifically, what will the steps be to achieve that goal? And then there's like a little progress tracker that you can track over the course of the period. Oh, I should mention, this planner is a quarterly planner. What I like about that is it's kind of like a fresh start every quarter. And that's something I really did like about this planner. The downside is you kind of have to set it up every quarter. So it's like a pro and a con. It's like, it's really nice to feel like you have this fresh start, but also like you have to set it up. But so you have your goals up front, and these goals tie back to the annual goals that you set at the beginning of the year. So you have that in the beginning. You have a little calendar section here. It is undated. So you have a little calendar section here. And then the weeks are like, this is like your weekly preview. So before the week starts, you have like, what are your intentions for the week? Like, what are your big three for the week? A big three is like a concept as part of this planner system of like, if you could only do 3 things today, what would they be? And they should be things that move projects and timelines forward. That's like the most important thing. And then what worked and what didn't from the previous week, and just essentially like evaluating the current week, like that just passed, and like preparing for the week coming ahead. It also has like a little section for a reminder of like things that rejuvenate you to make sure you do those so you're like feeling good and you're not like neglecting other parts of your life as you're pursuing maybe work things or like other more demanding things. So I really like that. So you have that page, which is like your weekly preview. And then you have this page. This is essentially like a week dashboard, and I loved this section when I was using it for work and projects, because here it was kind of like an informal space. Let me see if I find a good one here, where I can just kind of jot down where I'm thinking of space, or how I'm thinking of spacing out projects throughout my week, or like what days I'm going to focus on which things. Kind of focus really helped crystallize my day when it came to that day. So I would take a glance at this. Okay, I can see how these things fit in for the week. And then I would go into each day and like, here's my plan of attack. And then the daily pages look like this. So let me see if I find a blank one in the beginning. It's like this. So here you have the date, your big 3. This is a whole section for like daily notes that you can jot down. It says like your task list. So like a secondary task list. You have this small section for your schedule, and then this huge page for notes. Like that was really nice in a time when I didn't really have a good system for like tracking notes. It was helpful just to kind of like jot things down if I was on a call at work, or on a personal call, like I could take notes about those things. So that I really liked. I like how it also had a section of like your daily win here at the bottom, like what was the win for the day, and a quote. Every day there's a quote. So I really liked that. And then up here, there's a little checklist to see like, did you do your morning ritual, like getting up, exercising, like whatever your morning routine entails? Did you do your startup ritual? So I had created the startup ritual where I would read something motivational, I would review my time blocks for the day, and then that was it. But like it was something helpful. And then your workday shutdown ritual, and then your evening ritual. But it was just nice to have that reminder of like, there are things you should be doing in a specific sequence that will help you structure your day. And so that I really liked. Some other things in here that I'll touch on. So it has like the calendar up front that I mentioned. You have this section similar to most planners where you have the months kind of all laid out as a 12-month review. And then it has a space like if you want to try to jot down your rituals, like your AM rituals and your PM rituals and what those will look like, your workday startup and your workday shutdown ritual. For example, like my workday shutdown was to do the Sensama shutdown ritual, which Sensama has. Sensama is an app I use for work. I've mentioned it a few times on the channel, but that has a ritual built in itself, which I adore. But reminding myself to do it is one thing. So that was part of my end of day ritual, and then tidying my desk and just kind of resetting it for the next day. And there's something about that feels really good to like close out the day, shut down your space, especially if you work from home, which I find can be challenging because you could just jump on the computer anytime. And so it's really helpful to have like that shutdown, separation, and like moving on with the rest of your day. Then you have like your ideal week. So I had like 2 different versions of my ideal day. This is a helpful exercise. I actually have a version of this in Excel or Google Sheets where I have my like different versions of my ideal week when I'm trying to think of like, okay, how do I want to structure and like lay out my days going forward? Like where am I going to fit in exercise? Where am I going to like start to wind down for the day, ideal meal times, that kind of thing. Like I like to work it out in a spreadsheet, but it's essentially something like this. Overall, I would say this planner is fantastic for anyone who really wants intentional weekly rituals and kind of a system that gives you more structure. Like if you would like more structure and more intention behind it, I definitely recommend, even if you don't use this planner, definitely recommend reading the book Free to Focus. It's a fantastic book. I actually might reread it pretty soon. It's really, really good. And so I liked it for that. I liked it very much, and I would continue to use it, except for me, the deal breaker of this one, and like I have 2 unused ones, and I'm debating if I'll ever return to them or maybe I'll just give them away, is that it's undated. I really just do not like an undated planner. In the initial one that I used, I think this one was the first one actually, I started just writing in the days, but it just feels like a little sloppy. One, I mean, even if you, I don't know, it just feels like unfinished, but there's that. And then like that's a lot of work to go in and date every single day. And I like to do that ahead of time because, for example, if I have something coming up in the future, I like to drop myself a note in the future, like remember to do XYZ on this day, or you know, like there's different things that are time-based that I like to make myself a note about in the future. And that's difficult to do unless you go through and date the entire planner at the beginning. And that's what I would find myself doing. And that just became tedious. And it's unfortunate because I really, really like this planner. And I asked them a bunch of times. I was like, do you think you'll ever make a dated version of this? And they were like, no. So, yeah. So unfortunately, that's the case there. But I really liked it. Like I'll share a few pages. So like up here, I would write my big 3. And I have a pretty similar system now where like if it's completed, I've highlighted it. If it's not completed, I'll move, you know, put the little arrow indicating like this needs to be moved to a different day. Then other tasks, I still do this on my sprouted planner where I just like write down any important meetings or anything that I'm need to attend. And then this whole section just for notes. That part I really did like. That note section, I got really used to that. And that's why after I did this, it was hard to return to the Erin Condren daily because you don't have as much writing space here. Like this is nothing compared to all the space that you get here. But in my sprouted planner, I have much more space. So like in the sprouted planner, you have this whole section to take notes if you want to. And I really love that. So I think that's why I gravitated more towards this planner after going through the full focus planner. And again, the only reason why I switched out of this one was because it was undated. So if that's not a deal breaker for you, it's definitely worth checking out. They're a little pricey. The other thing that was concerning to me was like, this is just 2 quarters. And so if you have a whole year, it feels like it takes up a lot of space. But in reality, like if I'm using the daily planner, it takes up just as much space because it's essentially two of these, 2 coils. So like, I don't know, that's like a bad comparison. But it essentially takes up the same amount of space. I'm not saving any space here by using this instead because there's 2 of these for the year. So all in all, I think it's a great planner. If it was dated, I'd probably still be using it. I actually like how portable it is too. It's 9 inches by 6 roughly. It drops into my backpack really easily. There's like these little ribbons to keep track of your pages. And then it has this like loop for closure. And this is really nice to travel with because it's pretty hardy, and I would take it into my backpack for travel for work, and it's fine. So yeah, I really liked it. Unfortunately, like the undatedness of it just didn't work for me. The weekly review and rituals can be a little much, but I did appreciate them, especially when I was doing a lot more project work, and it was really important for me to see, okay, what am I doing each week to move the needle? Because sometimes like a week can go by and you're like, what did I even do to progress this forward? Especially when you have like multiple things on your plate. So that's why I appreciate this planner so much. But yeah, if you have any other questions about it, please drop them in the comments below. I would love to answer them. The paper quality is great. It's not as toothy as Erin Condren if you've used that paper, but it's high quality. There's not a lot of, there's a little show through, but no bleed through. But then again, I don't use really inky pens, so. But yeah, I'll do like a quick flip through at the end so you can kind of see some pages like in action, like filled out. But overall, I think it's a great planner. Definitely would recommend it for anyone who would like a daily, who is open to an undated planner. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know again if you have any questions. Happy to answer them and talk to you soon. One other thing I forgot to mention about this planner is that I did not use it as much on the weekends. And for me, that's been kind of like a new way to gauge how much I'm enjoying this planner for both personal and work. Like it was fantastic for work, but I think because I was reaching for it so much for work, I didn't really use it very much for the weekends. Unlike my spreaded planner, which I really enjoy using on the weekends. I don't use it as much every weekend, but that was definitely one thing where I like did not reach for this at all, like on vacations or while I was, during the weekend. So not a huge deal, but I thought it was worth noting as I was thinking about this. But yeah, overall, great planner. Curious to see if you've ever tried it or considered it. Definitely leave me a comment down below.